Ciao, ciao, everybody, and welcome to another live video episode of Giallo, Ciao, Ciao, the All Giallo Show. I'm Creep, this is Eric,
Hello.
and this is Chris.
Hi.
And tonight we're going to do The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. We're also going to be going over the listener top 10.
Yay!
And we're also going to let you know which order the next movies are going to be in. And we're also going to tell you other stuff, I'm sure. So how are you guys doing?
That's too much stuff to do in one night.
Yeah, that's a full load.
Oh.
Yeah.
Especially, well, this movie will take us about 12 minutes to get through if we're just going to talk about the plot.
Not if you've seen my notes.
Not if you know my brain.
Oh, jeez. I know this was like you guys talking about curtains and linoleum flooring times 1,000, so I'm prepared for that.
Hey, it was your pick, so...
I got excited.
No, actually, yeah, I should be grateful because I think I was getting some shit or some flack for this. It might have been in good fun last time we talked, but yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what you guys think about it, what our listeners think about the movie. But as for myself, you know, just moving along, not doing a whole lot. Not very interesting. I did break up a fight in downtown Minneapolis tonight.
Shut up.
Tonight?
Yeah.
How did that go?
I was on my way to my bus after work, and this guy
How
kind
most
of...
Giallos start. Go ahead.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, I was listening to some Giallo music in my headphones just to complete the mood. And this guy he wanted to rush through the yellow light, but then when he got to the other side of the street, he was basically blocking the crosswalk, which didn't please one fellow who kicked the guy's car, and the guy came hurtling out of his vehicle and at top speed, and he just collided with a guy with his hands out, shoving him away, yelling all kinds of profanities and expletives at him. And the guy that kicked the car actually he looked to be mentally handicapped, which was kind of sad. He was just getting shoved around and pushed around. He didn't really know how to react, so he was kind of shoving back but not really saying anything. And everyone was kind of just standing around gawking, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I have to do something here. The guy's like he's a little slow and not able to defend himself well, so I got in the middle. I'm like half the size of both these guys. But luckily they basically just thought I was like this gnat or this fly in the area, and they're just ignoring me. But I finally was able to get the guy who kicked the car away and pulled him to the side of the street. And the guy just kept shouting and yelling profanities. So he didn't really know how to react, so he was kind of shoving back but not really saying
Mute
anything.
that, Chris.
And
Oh yeah, look at that.
just standing around gawking, and I'm like, wow, I must be like 5 minutes behind on that.
Was the car a nice car?
No, it was like a Pontiac. Flame red. Yeah. It already had a couple dents in it, so he probably couldn't distinguish what had happened to it. But this guy, he must have just hated his life and what he's done to it, and had to go pick on a poor guy. I mean, the guy did kick his car, but he should have known that he was picking a fight with, someone he shouldn't have been.
You never hear people say Pontiac anymore, do you?
They stopped making them, man.
Isn't it weird? Like, no, they still make, like, what is it, like the Grand Am, or...
Don't they make any?
I don't think they make any Pontiacs anymore. I think they shut down.
Huh.
It's like talking
Such
about
a
Mercury.
weird word to say over and over again.
Pontiac.
Pontiac.
Pontiac, Michigan. The Pontiac Superdome. Silverdome.
Which WrestleMania happened there?
3?
The one that got erased from memory
I was
after the past weekend.
completely guessing. Was it really 3? Wasn't that the one with Mr. T?
No,
oh, no, I'm
it was
thinking
the one
Rocky.
with
That's
Andre
Rocky
Giant
3.
Hulk
I'm
Hogan.
sorry. That's Rocky 3.
Yeah, dude. That's when they set the all-time indoor attendance record at 93,000 plus, brother.
We can't talk about that event anymore after what happened.
I know, I'm sorry.
Been erased from history.
I don't know what happened. Hey, how do I change it so that I'm looking at whoever's talking currently? Anybody
I
know?
don't know if you can do that.
I think that's just the thing that happens.
Okay.
Is
Well,
it on my full screen?
But anyway, just so everybody knows who's watching, if you would like to comment or chat, please use the question and answer button thingy or the Q&A thing located somewhere near the video. I don't know exactly where it would be on your screen, but on my screen it's here and it goes here. But I don't know if it's like that on a viewer's screen.
It could be here or it could be here.
It might be blue. But if you comment anywhere else, we're not going to see it.
And if you're just tuning in, Chris was actually pointing at something on his screen. He wasn't simulating anything that was going on at his house prior to this show.
You know, it's funny, we can't even drop like sound bites from this film because it was in French and there was probably like 3 sentences of dialogue in the whole film anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, there were so many more than that.
Was there?
There really was. I found myself reading a great deal when this movie was on.
Well, let's not spoil too much because I've got lots of things to talk about.
What do you want to jump into first? You want to jump into the listener top 10? Oh, wait, no. I got to tell you guys something. Just for shits and giggles. I have a death metal band now, and it's awesome.
Oh, is it called Murder?
It's called Murder.
That's what all those kids were talking about today.
Yeah.
On Twitter. Yeah, okay.
And I went and recorded a demo, and I played all the instruments. So if there's anyone out there in the SoCal area that wants to play some death metal with me, hit me up.
I can't even begin to tell you that if I was anywhere near SoCal that I would be there in a heartbeat. But
hell yeah.
I'm nowhere near SoCal. I have the equipment and I have the desire to be in a death metal band, but it's just not happening for me.
So you just woke up this morning and you decided you were going to do this and you just went out and did it?
No, it was a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
I woke up and I was getting bummed out because my Creeperson horror punk band is just so fun and lighthearted.
Yep.
And I've been writing some really dark shit, and I don't want to turn Creeperson into a super dark band.
Sure.
So,
besides us, do you have to do some kind of a secret identity to fool everyone else so that they can keep you separate from your Creeperson persona?
In the death metal band?
Yeah.
No, I'm still going to be Creep.
Oh, okay.
Or I could be like Zeronophis.
There you go.
And wear corpse paint and shin guards.
What flavor of death metal is it? Is it a subgenre within the subgenre of death metal?
Well, when I was at the studio, the producer was like, "I don't even know what the fuck to call this," and he said, "He's
is
like,
that a good or bad thing?"
I don't know, because it's kind of like Napalm Death and Bolt Thrower." And then I listened to, and I'm like, no, it's not like that at all. But like, because I've been listening to a lot of 6 Feet Under and Cannibal Corpse, but I've also been listening to a ton of black metal, like Dark Throne and Bathory and shit like that. So it's like kind of black metal-y death metal.
Cool.
Is there any Opeth in there?
No, not quite yet.
Eric, you're an Opeth fan? That's fantastic.
I'm kind of down that trajectory. Yeah, yeah.
I've been really digging into the old, like I've been listening to a lot of Death and Possessed and Sodom and Hellhammer and just some like old, gnarly death metal and black metal.
And happy
some
fun
Burzum and Mayhem. It's been good times.
Mayhem. Now there's a band you want to hang out with.
Right?
Any Suicide in there?
Not yet.
It's probably a little
still
too
here.
Yeah.
A little too early. We're peaking too soon.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway. So now
that
splooge has been splodged.
Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say, not only does JalloScore.com have 254 likes on its Facebook page. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yay.
But wait, I'm trying to find the effects here. But I can also say that we've celebrated our 50th film. Hooray!
Yay!
You didn't tell me to bring my party hat.
Where is the sound effects? You bastards!
I think I got it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. That's a nice hat. I'm really excited about what's going on next because we've reached this milestone of 50 films on the site. I've already been working on the section that I think I'm going to be calling trends. I'm trying to come up with one word that would fit in the navigation of the site that would basically convey what the section is, and it's going to be a section of graphs and charts and analysis of the first 50 films, and I've already done a little bit of work on it. So call
it nerd.
Nerd, yeah, or geek out or something.
Yeah.
So I think at least the next 2 out of 3 films are already on the site. I know that Eric's next pick is 7 Deaths in a Cat's Eye, which I have not put on the website yet. But other than that, I'll have plenty of time to finish up, and I'm pretty excited about what the data is looking like. I know that it's going to be completely stupid when it comes out because it's going to be like, well, it serves no purpose. But it's really interesting to see, taking like the 5 big directors and graphing out of the Giallo that they directed that's been scored, how many of them have black gloves, or how many of them have an urban location, or how many of them have J&B bottles, and so on and so forth. So, this thing could go very far. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, I'm probably just going to pick 5 or 6 really interesting pieces of data and put those on the page up front and see how it does. But so look for that in the next couple of weeks. Maybe.
Are you going to do a thing where it's how many Edwidge nipples per film are in each movie on average?
Well, that's a great idea, and thank you for suggesting that. No, I'm really kind of doing analysis on the scoring criteria and then matching it up with like directors or composers or the year. But that's a good idea.
Can you go on SlideShare and make a PowerPoint?
Yeah, I mean, well, what I'm doing, I mean, there's a modern way of doing this sort of thing on the web, which I haven't invested enough time in, which is basically to have it on the fly, generate graphs and charts on your web page, so that as data changes, the graphs will change, which obviously makes sense.
Ooh.
I'm not going that route. I'm basically tying an Excel spreadsheet to my database and then having Excel generate the graphs and then taking the images of the graphs and putting them on the website. So it's kind of a manual process, but it'll be cool. I'm going to make it look cool at least.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
Cool.
Some Visio charts and spreadsheets and
some Visio charts. There you go. Little flow diagram.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm pretty amazed that.
I've seen a flow diagram on a maxi pad.
I'm pretty amazed that the website has gotten to 50 films. I never expected it to get that far. Or maybe I guess I did, but I didn't think that it would get that far that quickly. And it's pretty weird that the 50th film is this one, the one we're covering tonight, because it's so different in a lot of ways, but yet it kind of falls into place in a lot of other aspects. So we'll be talking about that soon.
Yeah, kind of summarizes everything we've done up to this point.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Well, alrighty. Let's go ahead and jump into the listener top 10, because I know you guys are very waited with bated breath here. And I'm going to tell you something. There's some shockers in here.
Oh, yeah? I saw some
Oh,
shockers on
yeah.
the group.
Some shockers like this. Yeah, I knew he was going to do that. Okay, so at
Isn't
number
that
10.
also? Isn't this also some symbol for one of the college like basketball teams? Because I know there was like a whole controversy where, like
I
George
hope
Bush, I think it
Put
was
that
like
down.
George Bush was giving the shocker signal because it was like either a lacrosse team or a basketball team. And everybody's like, "Oh boy, the president's giving the shocker."
Who was he giving it to?
Well, like everybody from the team, like that's their hand signal
I'm
for their
joking.
team.
He
Oh, I
wasn't
see.
just like,
I
yeah. All right.
need to learn after 41 episodes that your questions are always loaded and not to answer them.
Loaded. Yeah. And I'm really dry. So that's awful. Okay, so this was the first shocker. This one shocked me. At number 10, we have forbidden photos.
What's the number of people participating here?
I can't tell you that.
Okay, is it one?
Astronomical. No.
It's Zoe.
No,
Pushed her
it's
into
not.
doing it. You wish yourself to make her do the poll.
Astronomical.
At number 9, we have footprints on the moon.
Okay. See, that one
I
makes
kind
more
of figured
sense.
that would be low.
Forbidden
Yeah.
photos. I don't see how forbidden photos is that offensive that it would round out at 10.
Or
amongst-
even that boring.
Right. Like
Come
footprints,
on,
I can see
listeners.
love or hate, but yeah, weird.
At 8, we have Red Queen kills 7 times.
Oh man,
That's
Striking
good.
out.
At
That film's a piece of shit. I stand by it.
At 7, I think you skewed that when you went on your rant. At 7, we have aptly 7 bloodstained orchids.
There we go. Now we're coming back to my
Boo.
side.
I'm okay with that being that low. At 6, we have So Sweet, So Dead. At 5, we have the New York Ripper.
See, I
That
thought
wasn't-
Now, I think
Didn't we all have that for number 5 too?
Yeah.
we did too. Yeah,
That's funny.
that is like the most average film ever.
right. I thought a lot of
Um,
people liked So Sweet, So Dead when we talked about it, and they showed like support for it on the group. But
I thought so too,
maybe there's some real
but
strong
apparently
ones.
not.
Yeah.
There were some people who really didn't like it, like
That's
at
true.
all. At number 4, we have Death Walks at Midnight, which I'm surprised to see higher than a couple of these other ones. But here's the real shocker. At number 3, we have The Bat.
Wow.
Yeah,
I noticed
I
there
didn't
was a
see
number
that
one
one
vote
coming.
on the group for that one. So
And then the top 2, number 2, we have Opera, which, yeah. And number 1, Don't Touch That Duck.
Whack, whack.
Quack, 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 quack. So yeah, so good job, listeners. Good job picking a list that's completely different than ours.
Aw, come on now.
No, that was good.
I think we need to.
New York Ripper being 5 all across everything. It's just, that's good stuff. That cracks me up.
That's exactly how that movie feels too. It feels like it's not really great, but it's not bad either.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I've always kind of watched it, like with a semi-guilty pleasure. But then when you get into like kind of start scrutinizing it for some sort of value other than its exploitative aspect, it doesn't really hold much water.
Yeah, it's no Sister of Ursula, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
So,
What is?
Sister of Ursula.
not much. Yeah. Dagmar.
Dagmar. I like Dagmar.
Yeah. All right. So, without any further poo-poo, I think we should try to find out what color exactly the strange color of your body's tears are.
It's somewhere
Now,
between green and red.
Here's a question. Do you think that title was something that was just a bunch of words put together to make it sound really weird and jolly-like, or do you think that it has something to do with something at the very last scene? Spoiler.
I
Sorry, I
think
shouldn't have started
probably
with that.
both. I think both. Well, not only that, but we should probably start out by saying that there's no way that you can spoil this film, right? I mean,
Oh, I think you can.
like, what would be the spoiler? Like, talking about the very last bit of
Who the killer is and why they were killing people?
well, who's the killer?
The landlord.
Which one was the landlord?
The bald guy that the cops saved from getting killed by the naked chick.
He's the killer?
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
At the end of the movie, when they had the three things, and it was the cop, the main guy, and the landlord,
Yep.
he had his book, and he put his girlfriend's picture or whatever in the book, and then shut it, and it said Laura.
Right.
Then later, when the main guy went into the attic looking around for something, or not the main guy, the cop, he
Right.
found that book, and he opened it up, and it had the picture of the girl, it had the picture of the main guy's girlfriend, it had the picture of the chick he was banging downstairs, and then he realized, like, oh my god, Laura, the L on the door, and then when it went back to the flashback of the little girl at the end of the movie, not the little girl, but the teen girl,
Right.
the kid in there was a different kid than the other two kids that were in there, and she had blood going down her leg, and then
It was a different kid. Right. See,
the strange color of her body's tear was her menstruate, and he didn't understand that, and it triggered something in him to kill. That's a very basic way to do it.
Yeah, okay.
I see
Movie
that.
spoiled.
I dig it. I totally dig that.
Make sure you get the minute and second stamp that you announced that, so you can post that at the beginning of the show.
It's really early on in the show.
Fast forward if you can.
But the thing that was really neat about it was that it wasn't just about the red herrings. It was about these three men and their fascinations and obsessions with these women and what it did to their lives.
Sure. See, that part I understood. I just
that
couldn't,
was really neat how they did that.
Yeah, I couldn't grasp I was trying really hard with this one to follow along because I admittedly didn't do that with our last film. This one, and I still got thrown off by that last scene. I couldn't put it together, and I should have probably watched this movie more than once instead of saving it till last night. But yeah, upon second watch, I think I could catch that.
So let's, if we can deconstruct then, maybe going backwards from the last scene, because Creep, you kind of explained it pretty well. So I remember, because I went through it a second time today, and I went through it with the sound off, because the sound design in this film is just, it's so well done, but at the same time, I got a little bit tired of hearing those sounds of the leather, like the really tight leather creaking, along with the creaking of doors and the creaking of paper and the creaking of, like, it's all like right in your ears, like right in your face.
Yeah.
And I like the way that they did that, but I think they overdid it a little bit. So I turned the sound off. I had the subtitles still going because you needed them anyway because it was in French. And I put the speed on 2x because I have a copy of it as an AVI file, so I was watching it on the computer. And the film does not lose much going twice as fast. Now, to really get the full like atmosphere and feeling and mood and really appreciate the cinematography and all of the special effects and all of the art house aspect to the film, you got to watch it on regular speed. But to try and like go through the second time and look at the scenes and look at what's going on, I didn't feel like I missed anything going at twice as fast, and that's pretty much because it's a slow film. There's a lot.
Super slow.
There's a lot going on, and there's a couple of scenes that really pick up the pace and make the tension interesting. But then there's a lot of like kind of downtime. But anyway, like I have some things to say about that. But what I really wanted to know from you guys was, so we get towards the very end of the film, and the cop goes into one of these rooms, and it's just nothing but plastic on the walls everywhere and blood, and it's the girl with the black hair. Now there's two girls with black hair. One of them is the girl who's in the black and white scenes, who gets killed with the knife on the top of her head, and the other girl with the black hair is the girl from the roof in the beginning, who has that weird scene where she's got the incense and she cuts glass and she lays down on top of Dan and has that weird thing with the blue liquid or blue pills or whatever. So anyway, it's her, and it's one of those two, and she's hanging upside down.
It's the first girl, you said.
It's the first girl. Right, the girl that's in the black and white scenes. Now, is that Laura?
That's the Laura of the moment.
That's okay.
For the killer.
Got it. So all of a sudden, the detective looks up and he shoots at this mirror, and it's Dan standing behind it, right?
Yeah.
And then Dan falls over, and he's got a stab wound in his head already.
Yeah.
And then, as the detective is walking forward to see who just fell out, he gets stabbed through the back of the head, and through his mouth. I guess again by as you're saying, by the landlord. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then we just go to a final flashback, because there's lots of flashbacks in this film, but like the true flashbacks are the ones that are kind of with the white background and like they're really like in the past. But you're right, the young boy.
Well, those are the ones that are important to the character's motivations.
So I guess the question then is, there's two other times when we go to that flashback and we see the young boy and the kind of teenage girl.
That's Dora. That's Dan's ex-girlfriend, who he found in his room, the lady with the white hair.
Right.
And
she's like way, way older than him.
Yeah, so she was obviously pediddling his skittle when he was way little.
Yeah, she was the Barbara Boucher of this relationship.
But the thing that was funny, not funny, but weird, was that when the cop froze because the stab wound on top of Dan's head looked like the vagina he saw in the porno when he was a kid. And that was just hysterical.
So that scene, was that the that flashback scene, that was supposed to be the cop looking at the porno?
Yeah, that showed like his where he first became like a voyeur, because the cop was the same guy who was behind the mirror taking pictures of that girl.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that we really, that makes sense. So how do we explain the scene in the beginning with the guy with the beard who was taking video of and the guy it starts off with the record playing in the background, and the guy gives the girl some jewelry, and then he follows the girl in the town square, and it turns out to be a little girl, and she drops all of her candy on the floor. What was? I know that was the cop telling a story to Dan about something that happened in the past. But the reason
why the cop knew that story is because he was that guy.
He was the guy.
So the cop already knew that people could live in the walls of that building because he had been doing it prior, taking pictures of that girl for that other guy.
So the bearded guy in the flashback is actually the cop?
Yeah. But the bearded guy who dies in the wall talking to him through the bathroom wall, that was just a red herring guy who was there to basically tell him, yeah, Laura had secrets, and your wife knew about them, and that's why she got... And then that guy gets killed.
Right.
So that guy was just the little red herring guy.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. I never thought of it. I never thought of the film, even after 2 viewings, to be that specific. I guess it's like when you're watching a film like this, you have to decide, do I really want to think that hard about it? And if you don't want to think that hard about it, then the film just becomes a bunch of vignettes that are interesting and fun to watch and look good.
Makes it confusing is because the movie's told from so many different points of view.
Right.
That it almost, and when it does change POVs, it almost changed the way the film shot. Because like when the chick, which was arguably the coolest part in the whole fucking movie, where the girl gets the hat box and opens the hat box, and the hat, like, the dude comes out of the hat box.
Yeah.
Like, that was, like, the most fucking brilliant, amazing shit I've ever seen.
That was
And
really
then,
cool.
and then she, like, jerks it, and then all of a sudden there's 3 killers to kill the killer. But, like, I think what's going on is that the landlord is drugging these people, and they're having, like, hallucinations and shit.
Mm.
And that's how he kind of gets away with doing all the shit that he's doing, because every single person who was kind of trapped in that house, whether it was the old doctor that retired that went missing, or the main guy, or the cop when the cop was taking pictures of that girl, or whatever, all of them were having situations that most would say they were being schizophrenic. Like, Dan kept fucking that dream sequence where he kept waking up and killing himself, and then waking up and killing himself, and then the whole thing was there's somebody inside, but, like, it was referring to someone inside him trying to get out and all this other fucking weird shit.
Right.
Like, that was all, like, almost every flashback that people had in this movie was hallucinatory, you know? So that just made it fun to watch, but confusing as shit for a while.
Yeah, I think I heard a theory that, and I don't know how this holds up now that I've heard a little bit more of what you've had to say, but that all the women and all the men in this film were actually just 2 people, different personalities. I know you're talking about schizophrenia, and I know that a symptom of that is sometimes multiple personality disorder. I don't know if you think it goes that far, but that's kind of how I watched it, how I viewed it, but I think your explanation of it does make sense as far as a narrative. But it could also be viewed as this guy's just going nuts in the labyrinth of his apartment building, that he's walking around is actually just his own mind, and he's
kind of
like
his
old memories.
It's kind of like that guy H.H. Holmes, I think is his name, the guy in Chicago that had the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a labyrinth, and he was just killing people who were staying there over and over and over.
Yeah.
But because, like, for a while I was thinking that it had to be something where he was just crazy or something. But when you look at that book, there's a ton of girls' pictures in it. And some of them are girls we hadn't even seen yet.
Right.
So it makes me think that, like, the old lady whose husband disappeared, he was kind of going batshit. And I'm wondering if it was, like, something like he was putting something in the water, like the blue shit. Like, if he was just, like, poisoning everyone's water with hallucinogenics so he could go in and do shit. But I can't really remember many times when people were drinking unless he was, like, coming in their apartments when they weren't paying attention and dropping shit in their scotch or dropping shit in their tea.
Or milk.
Or something like that. But that scene where the guy went upstairs and was looking through the hole, fucking hell, that was like...
That was my favorite scene in the whole movie.
That was so fucking good.
That's a nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to bring that up. Like, and they threw that in the beginning, and it was really tense and scary, and it's like, okay, so first he hears the noise while he's banging his wife, and then, like, he's become obsessed with trying to find out what this noise is, so much to the effect that he ties up his wife and drugs her, so I guess so she won't make any noise, or that she won't disturb him from continuing his investigation. And then she wakes up again, and he's been sucked into the ceiling. It's almost like some sort of supernatural thing. Like, you could explain it obviously logically, like he found a way up into that area, but really there's just one little hole in the ceiling in a circle, and he's up there, and just the visuals, just the whole visuals of her being like right up against the hole and feeding him up those long matchsticks that were lit up, and then like he's grabbing them, and it was just so tense and freaky and weird. And
I was just waiting for her to get stabbed in the face.
Yeah, or something to explode because, or like I didn't think I thought the matches were gonna really be like a bad thing, like him having the matches up there in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
But
Gas.
it just goes to show you like how effective the unknown aspect of these kinds of things is. You watch this and you don't know what's on the other side of that circle, but you're terrified for
Yeah.
for this woman and for the guy, and then the fact that they put that in the beginning, it kind of sucked because it really kind of hyped me up, and I thought that maybe the film was going to be it was going to continue to follow along in that vein of tenseness, and it really didn't. I mean, it was well executed scene, but it never really went anywhere. It was just kind of like this really cool vignette. And I feel like the movie is just full of vignettes, and I'm kind of, before we started the podcast here, I was kind of on feeling the same thing as Eric, which was that all of the guys in the film were really the same guy, and Dan, he as soon as he comes home and realizes that that his wife's gone, and he goes on that bender and he has like 3 or 4 scotches in a row with the record going around in a spiral and it starts to go out of focus. Part of me feels like, it's 2013, so this is kind of played out, but what if it was just, as soon as he started drinking, he went on some sort of weird bender, and the rest of the film is just him hallucinating the rest of it. It's kind of like, who shot JR? Oh, nobody did. It was just a dream sequence. It's kind of a cop out.
Spoiler.
So I didn't really think that I didn't really think that that was what was happening, but I did think that there was something going on with the fact that in certain scenes you had to do a double take when you watched it, because you were saying, well, which of those 3 guys is that? And is that the guy with the beard? Is that the guy from downstairs? Is that the doctor? Is that Dan? Is it the landlord? Is it the detective? They all kind of looked a bit the same, and you could start talking about like doppelgangers and multiple personalities and sort of like sickness of the mind kind of thing. But I appreciate if Creep, if your interpretation is more accurate, and we really don't know unless you were to interview the filmmakers, but if your interpretation is more accurate, then I appreciate the film like 10 times more, because it does have something tangible to hold on to as far as the narrative, as far as a final scene, and I may be able to go in and give the film a few more points.
Yeah.
But the killer got away, basically, is what we're saying, right?
That's the whole thing, and it trips me out because it's like the killer's never unmasked other than that flashback thing, and the killer gets away, and no one came freaking close at all to catching him. And that's the thing that cracks me up. It's like
right.
They weren't anywhere near close to catching him. And then the other thing that, like, I don't know if it troubled me or what, but I was even wondering if that cop was even a real cop. Because, like, he never had anyone else with him, and I can't remember a movie where the cop was by himself the whole time.
Right. What was the
badge?
What was the significance of like the round makeup pads? Like,
it just smells like the chick that he had fallen in love with through watching her.
More feminine desire.
He was in love with which one?
With the girl he was taking pictures of.
Which was who?
Which girl was that? Who he shot.
Oh, the girl who he shot. Okay, gotcha. And so right. Okay. And so the landlord, he was just obsessed with. Who was the girl in the red?
I think the girl in the red was the landlord's chick.
Right.
Like
that's what I think too.
Laura.
The one in all like the flashbacks where they did. It was more like still photography in a sequence.
Yeah.
I like those. I like
the different. Other black-haired chick.
Yeah. Who was it?
The chick you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that was cool because they left the sound play normal.
Yep.
And a lot of times when movies do things with photographs, like the sound stops with the picture, and that one the sound just played through the whole time. It was really kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really how you look at the past is through photographs. So doing a flashback that way, at least that's what I perceived it was, more of a flashback. I thought was kind of interesting, but yeah, talking about the doppelgangers again, it almost seemed like it was purposeful that they did that. That they got the cast actors that all looked the same, and I think when you were talking about that scene in the beginning where he's looking through the small hole and it being tense, it was very tense, and you kind of wanted to see more of that. But I think, to me, it was almost like, looking back on it, it was like foreshadowing throughout the rest of the film, because this whole imagery, not to sound too crude, but it just continued throughout the film,
Right.
which obviously this whole film is about, female violence towards women and turning it on its head. And so you've got these visuals of these men continually going through or penetrating these holes, starting with a very small one, and then eventually there's the wall-sized one that Dan walks through a couple times, and then in the end they all get holes in their own head and through their mouth and everything, and it's the men want to have this control, they want to be the ones penetrating, and they get what's coming to them at the end.
Except the killer.
Except for the killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Who we think is the killer. Hasn't been proven.
It has not.
So did you guys do any scavenger hunting? Because I found so many very direct references to other Gialli, and obviously the music is one of them. The music is a direct lift. Like I noticed there was a part from Riz Ortolani, the end scene in the last movie we just did, Seven Bloodstained Orchids, when the two main characters are walking away from the pool after that final battle. There's before the credits roll, there's this kind of low, kind of mellow song with the flute playing.
Yeah.
That was in the film. And then there's a part of the film where it was from Torso. It was this weird kind of organ. That part is from Torso. And there was a bunch of other ones too. There was this one that has the riff from Inagata-Davida at one point. But it's not the whole song. It's like they made this weird kind of tune, and they just stole that one little riff and put it in there. I can't remember exactly what part that was in.
A funny thing with the music I just want to throw in before we move away from it. I was sitting there because I was hearing, like you were saying, I was hearing all these recognizable tunes, and I was like, this movie could really use some that theme from All the Colors of the Dark in it, that kind of almost western, spaghetti western theme. And then at the very end, after that last scene, it cuts and it goes to that the big title splashes, and then all of a sudden All the Colors of the Dark theme music comes on, and I just I melted in my seat. Okay, so great.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But I know. I was thinking that I found so many different references. Like I found, that one scene where Dan goes. So the first time that Dan finds the picture, it's like a drawing of the painting. I guess I don't know if we want to try and kind of decipher that whole thing, but so there's a painting of a girl with her. She's got her back to your point of view, and she's got her hair going down, and there's obviously you can see where the area is that's going to end up becoming the hole that the killer is always stabbing with, or it's also a vagina, but also that particular painting was a drawing that Dan finds in the hat box. And I don't know if you guys noticed this part where he's cleaning up his room and he's putting stuff away, and every once in a while the hat box just keeps coming back.
Yeah.
The box is there, he picks it up, he puts it away, and then it fades out, or it fades to the next, like a kind of a fade edit, and then the box is there again. So he finally opens it up and he finds a whole bunch of sex toys, like a magic wand that vibrates, and a bunch of other weird things. But then he finds this picture, and when he first goes to unfold it, it's folded in such a way that it looks like a vagina, and then he unfolds it a little bit more, and it's actually a drawing of the girl, and then on the back it's the number 7, but maybe it's supposed to be an upside down L, and so he goes up to apartment number 7, and that's where the girl from the rooftop lives, I guess. And there's a scene where there's like stained glass windows. I mean, there's stained glass windows all over the apartment, but there's a stained glass window of a peacock, and I thought it was the exact same one from Footprints on the Moon, because there's a scene in Footprints on the Moon where the main character says something about, "Can I have the room in the front with the peacocks?" And she's actually referring to that other house that they eventually go to at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But I went back and looked, and it's not the exact same thing. It's just kind of a reproduction. And there's a lot of that in the film. Like there's...
then that's just like the bird with the crystal plumage, too.
Yeah.
Like being the glass window and all that other stuff.
And then, you've got the blue pills in the water. They're from All the Colors of the Dark. Those were the vitamin pills that they were given to Edwidge.
The knife up the crotch from Salon.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many of them in there that I probably didn't notice them all. Like there's one where Dan gets a delivery and the camera pans down the phone cord and it looks just like the one from Blood and Black Lace, which I think is like at the end of the movie. So like I found that to be kind of fun. Like I don't think that the people who made this film did any sort of ripping off. Like I think that they did it all kind of homage-like. Like everything was done like in a way where it was like we're paying tribute to all these old films and how stylistic they are. And I was listening to I think it's the podcast Under the Stairs. You guys listen to that podcast?
Oh yeah, with Duncan.
Yeah, and they were talking about the same film, and I actually listened to it so that I could get somebody else's perspective on this.
Cheater.
And they were talking about how they didn't think that the film was taking place in modern times until they got to the point where the cop takes pictures with his cell phone, because everything else in the film seemed kind of either timeless or at least not modern. Like there was record players, and there were like these reel-to-reel tapes where you could listen to the voice of Dan's girlfriend. But it wasn't until that moment where the guy took out the cell phone that those guys realized that, hey, this is taking place in modern times. So it's kind of like I think the filmmakers really wanted to.
I mean, the whole thing was decorated with that whole mid-century modern like flair to it, like that 60s amazingness.
Yeah, but it's all stuff you can buy at IKEA now, so it could have been.
Yeah. It looked great, dude. It just.
But it didn't have that kind of, that kind of light-hearted, semi-trashy Giallo look
lived in.
Like that you would see like in Strange Vice or Case of the Bloody Iris, like that kind of funky, swinging 60s look. It was all very gothic and very, it was all kind of very formal kind of architecture. I mean, obviously gorgeous. I mean, it's hard to think of a film that looks and sounds better than this one that I've seen in a long time. I mean, it's you can't say enough for the technical brilliance of the film, and maybe that's why it needed 2 directors, because it was so hard hard to put together. And I don't know, like I don't know enough about what modern technology has allowed filmmakers to do, but it seems like, with the using the computer and the non-linear video editing and that sort of thing, you can do a lot of stuff with special effects that you couldn't do before. But they didn't rely on any CGI formally. It was all just, a lot of different angles and fast cuts and weird editing and sound design and set design.
They had one green screen shot that was a little weird. When that scene you were talking about with the hat box and it's shot from above.
Oh yeah,
and he's like cleaning up the thing. He like comes up in front of the camera with the hat box and like puts it on a shelf that's kind of above your TV somewhere,
right,
and then drops back down out of frame. And I was like, that was awkward. It just looked weird, but
did you guys notice that when I guess when the cop goes into that room, I don't know if it's. See, I'm getting things confused. I don't know if it was. Maybe it was the landlord. The landlord walks into the room and there's like how many hat boxes? There's like 4 or 5 hat boxes. And then at one point the hat box is only about as big as this. And then later on it's as big as a regular size hat box. So, I mean, it's hard taking now like the kind of concrete interpretation of who the killer is and why and what was going on, and now trying to go back and I'm thinking about all the imagery that was going on. It's hard to figure out where some of this stuff gets placed in.
Well, I want to
reality.
Watch it, like knowing what I think I know now. Watch it again and kind of see if there's any like big like indicators.
Yeah. Yeah, because it seems like there might be some kinks in the theory, but
watch it there, buddy.
But that's okay because it's a Giallo, so
yeah.
Just about every one of these films has a kink in the theory. So
it is kind of funny how all you need to separate ripping something off and being a homage is a couple decades.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I mean, I think
it has to look really nice.
Yeah, and that too, and I think this does, like you said, comes off really well as far as the imagery, and this is kind of a film that would obviously not have been able to be made technically, but also it wouldn't have been appreciated, I don't think, if it had been done around the time that these films were coming out. This is kind of a film for us geeks who make a podcast about it or listen to podcasts about it to break apart the imagery of a Giallo film, which at the time was supposed to be a populist film, and we're looking at the colors and the music and the things like that, and they took those elements and they amped it up to 1,000 times to
right.
for us people, us geeks that really like it. So with that in mind, it kind of does lose its universal appeal. There's going to be people who aren't going to be able to watch this and understand or like or appreciate any of it. And even Giallo fans aren't going to like a lot of this. They're going to fall off the wagon as it's moving down the bumpy road and not catch back up. But,
my whole thing is if you like Footprints on the Moon and you like House of Laughing Windows and you don't like this movie, there's something wrong with you. Like, I'm just going to come out and say it. But
then I'm safe because I like both those movies and I love this one.
Well, I think it's harder to draw a parallel with House with Laughing Windows because, I mean, that film was a little bit avant-garde, but it kind of followed, somewhat of a straight path, and it wasn't as slow-moving as this, although it was pretty slow. But I can see where, Leorme and this movie kind of are definitely, go hand in hand almost, because Leorme is very kind of abstract, and it's a thinking person's film, and you get to the end and it's like, well, there's an interpretation, but it might not necessarily be the only one. And I
think if they would have said who the killer was, this movie would have been a lot better received. And I think that's sad. Because I think it did its job nicely.
Well, most of the reviews that I've read and any of the information that I've gotten on this film is that most people think that the film that came before this one is better. And I haven't seen it yet. It's called Amer. I haven't seen it. So it's by the same 2 directors. Yeah. So it's kind of like they took Amer and they amped it up like 10 times over for this Strange Colors film. So not having seen Amer, I'm assuming that if you were to de-amp or unamp or amp it down, if that's the right thing to say, by 10 times, you would have a film that was like visually appealing, but maybe the story is a little bit more kind of straightforward or linear. I don't know. But I definitely want to watch it because I have.
Yeah, I want to see it too. I haven't seen it. The only one of the Neo Giallo type movies I've seen besides this is that Barbarian Sound Studio, and that was so fucking god awful.
Yeah, I heard that got a big from a
Dude,
lot of people.
I absolutely hated it.
Yeah,
but anyhow,
I think film as an art form, if we're gonna get geeky and nerdy, it deserves to be watched multiple times, or the films do, the good ones, and it's sad that people want to dismiss this film if they don't understand it right away. I didn't understand it. I still technically don't understand it, and I would love to go back and watch it again and see if I can figure it out. And I think that they took the capabilities of what film can do, and they went with it, and I really appreciated that.
I think I'm going to make the kids watch it tonight and see what happens.
Oh yeah, get
See
all the
what they
popcorn
think.
and soda.
But that's the thing, though, because Jolly, as much as it's a very specific kind of film, it has a polarizing effect depending on how lighthearted or not lighthearted the film is. And so it's very easy to take a film like Case of the Bloody Iris or Strip Nude for Your Killer and have those two films kind of get people to understand what Jolly is and start to get some fans, and then you throw a movie like this at them, and of course, it's a neo-Giallo, so, there's a lot of other aspects of it that don't really apply because it's, 40, 50 years later, but, it's not for everybody in that, like I said before, when you sit down to watch this film, you can't watch it with the same kind of haphazard, viewing approach as you would a Strip Nude, because you can watch Strip Nude and not necessarily pay 100% attention to it and still get an enjoyment out of it and still understand what's going on.
You have to quit downplaying Strip Nude for Your Killer. It is a thinking man's film.
All right, so you could watch Eyeball and...
Oh man, you're just being a jerk now.
No, but I mean, and again, if we go back to history, these films were all made for these audiences that really weren't paying attention that much, that were kind of in the theater and maybe would come in late, or maybe they'd hang out and be socializing while they watch the film. So a film like Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, I mean, there's a couple of times in that film where if you look away, you miss something big. Like the first time I watched it, I didn't see the part where he woke up and his wife's head is next to him. And then there was a couple more times in the film where there was close-ups of her head, but because they were so close up, I thought maybe he was just hallucinating that she was alive again, or maybe he was having visions of what she looked like, but really he was picking her head up, like her decapitated head.
I got a text message during one of the scenes when the cop was talking to him, and I took my eyes away from the screen for like 3 seconds and felt like, what happened? I don't understand anything.
The whole film has been ruined.
Rewind it and go back. And I only missed like 2 lines, but
right.
I was like completely confused. So yeah, you got to pay attention.
Yeah, so that's why it's hard to recommend it to everybody, because it reminded me of David Lynch for sure. It reminded me a lot of Mulholland Drive. It had that feel to it of just like this hallucinatory, these characters, or even Lost Highway, like the character is the same character, but it's a different character, but it's in a dream, or maybe it's another hallucination within a dream, and Dan looked a little bit like Willem Dafoe, and so I'm kind of thinking like, I'm watching this David Lynch film with Willem Dafoe in it, and then as it goes on and the violence.
That could make some sense, because the movie Laura, I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's noir. It's amazing. It's a really, really great movie. But that was one of David Lynch's favorite movies, which he named Laura Palmer after. So if these guys are fans of Lynch's stuff, and the company that put it out, it's the same company that puts out David Lynch's stuff over there. So I could see some parallels there.
What if David Lynch made a Giallo film?
I like it.
I think he did, and I think it was... no, I'm just kidding.
Blue Velvet?
You could say so many of his movies were very Giallo-esque.
Oh, yeah.
But...
Frank Booth
like
is a perfect
Dune.
Italian character.
Right? Pabst Blue Ribbon!
That's right.
No, I seriously love this movie, and the whole time I was watching it, I'm like, okay, this movie's almost 2 hours long. 15 minutes into it, I'm liking it, but it still has plenty of time to piss me off.
Right.
And I kept checking the clock. I'm like, okay, I'm a half hour in, I'm still liking it. they could still fuck me here. And then when I thought the movie was about to end and I checked and there was 14 minutes left, I'm like, great, here it comes. They're going to do something so fucking stupid that I'm going to fucking hate this movie.
Yeah,
and sure as shit, they didn't. Like,
when Dora came back, I was a little pissed. Then I had to look at the clock. Dora's the old woman.
Right.
This is it, right here. And then I had to look at the clock. Oh, good, there's 15 minutes left. It's not
because I thought
her.
they were going to say she was the killer, and I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
It freaking crotchety old freaking arthritis running around killing
But
everybody.
she was the one who left the flowers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do appreciate that
I
they
love
used like the raspy voice for her at the beginning and kept her in a shadow, and so you wouldn't know that it was her until the end. I thought that was.
I don't know if that was the same old lady.
I don't think so.
Because that old lady was the old lady with the guy who disappeared with the hole in the ceiling.
Yeah, she had a different kind of a face, and her hair was longer, and part of her hair was like black, and part of it was silver.
Like a Lemmy chunk on her face right here.
Oh, I missed the Lemmy.
Dora had a fake mole right there.
But clearly that's all done on purpose. Like every one of the females in the film has like another kind of mirror image of themselves, except for Edwidge, who we never really see other than in pictures or in flashbacks. But the brunette from the roof and the brunette who's I guess is Laura from the flashback scenes in black and white, they kind of look the same, and the old women look the same, and the detective and Dan look the same to a certain extent.
And when the detective had a beard, he almost looked like the other guy with the beard.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and the landlord looked like Peter Boyle from Young Frankenstein, but we won't talk about that because that's not very important.
Well, and I think my first time through, I didn't even recognize that there was a third man. I mean, there was the third man there was a third man if you count the guy who was doing all the videotaping in the flashback, but the guy who played the landlord, I don't think I even noticed him because I was so much concentrating on Dan and the cop and trying to figure out which one was which, depending on which scene it was, because of the way they had the scenes lit and everything.
Well, the only big indicator for me was that he was the only one who acknowledged that Laura was real to him until the guy with the beard said that she was. He's like, yeah, that Laura girl. And he's like, yeah, Laura used to live here years ago, but she's probably really old now. You know what I'm saying?
I don't remember that scene. What part was that? Was that when all three of them were talking to each other?
He came in once because he said there was someone in his apartment. And he came in there and said, you got to quit bugging the tenants or else I'm going to kick you out of here. Right. And then he came in again and kicked him out.
Well, I remember that they went...
So I think it was during the kick-out scene.
I remember he and the detective went down to the bottom floor because Dan thought that the bearded guy was down there. And the landlord gets on the phone, and then you see on the other end of the phone is the woman in all red, and then she hangs up. And then the next scene, the three of them, along with the guy who lives in the bottom apartment, they're all talking, and all of a sudden, like, somebody pokes their head through the door, and it's the woman in red, and then she shuts the door real quick.
That's when I got a text, like, during that scene.
That's the worst possible time.
Yeah. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, just turn off your damn phone.
It's the best movie I've seen in a fucking long time, dude.
That's good to hear. Maybe people will stop voting for my film.
Seal of approval.
Yeah.
I really like that clear vinyl record that woman had.
Hell yeah.
That was really
like
cool.
Hypnotizing people or some shit.
Is Murder's first LP going to be clear vinyl? Or is that going to be only
I hope so.
Limited?
It's going to be clear vinyl with blood splattered all over it and a severed head and some innards.
There's only going to be like 100 copies of that release.
And maybe we'll even put some music on it.
So the woman who was taking guys back into her room and giving them blue pills and stabbing them with pieces of glass, was that supposed to be like a misdirection or some sort of red herring, like maybe she's the killer? Or like
Well, I
what
think everyone
was that all
was
about?
kill him.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
single
everyone.
person had some like weirdness. I thought one of the coolest things was that when the cop played the tape the speed it's supposed to be played at, it
Right,
was his wife's voice saying that she wanted to kill him instead of him thinking it was like some man trying to kill him kind of thing.
right. Yeah,
That
that's,
was like pretty awesome.
that was cool, but I think that I realized right away that it was Edwidge talking on that tape, even when it was slowed down. Like I thought it was Edwidge to begin with, talking about how she hated her husband or whatever.
Why the fuck would she record herself spilling the beans of her plan?
Why? Come on now.
Because it
Why?
made for a good movie.
Why would that? Why would that woman, every time she put her head down to continue the oral sex, after she came back up, her eyes would change to a different color, and that color represented the ring that was on her finger that she turned backwards and then eventually slashed the guy's throat with. Right?
I think she slashed his wang. She gave him a little bit of this with the mouth on it, with the
Yeah.
The Velociraptor claws.
yeah, that was awesome.
How did the inspector get the scratches on his neck? Did they ever explain that? Because he came in the beginning and he said,
Yeah, I don't think they did.
yeah, okay.
But he also didn't explain what was in those candies that were like eating his leg, and when he put his hand in his pocket,
More blue pills.
and it's all. Do you remember that? It's all.
Yeah.
And he put his hand in his pocket, and it's all bloody coming out. That was fucking horrendous, dude.
Yeah.
It's definitely. I'm gonna watch it again right now.
It's
because,
got
like,
yeah. It needs so
I'm
many
hooked.
rewatchings.
Yeah.
Wow, so we all like it. That's cool. And it's funny because I didn't know. I had heard so many different things about the film, and not knowing what I was going to think about it.
I thought I was gonna hate the shit out of this movie.
Yeah, I didn't go in with a completely clear mind. I went in thinking I wasn't going to like it, or that it was just going to be too artsy fartsy for me to care about it. But it turns out that after watching it a second time, that there's a lot going on. And listening to those guys at the podcast Under the Stairs talk about it, it helped, give me some more perspective. So kudos to those guys. Yeah, they both liked it. They basically have the same conclusion as we did, which is, if you're looking for a lighthearted kind of Giallo to sit down with on a Saturday with a bunch of your friends and some beer, this isn't it.
Again, not everything's eyeball.
Right. You can't have eyeball every time you sit
Specify
down.
that every week.
I wish that. Is there a better copy of Eyeball? Because the copy I have is crap, and I really wish.
I like the copy I have. It's just a little washed out.
Yeah.
It's just kind of yellowy, but I love it.
Yeah, we're shameless on that one. They can release Sister of Ursula.
Yeah, really.
Oh, I should watch that again.
Yeah, you should. Make a night of it.
Get a little
Double
bit
bill.
of Dagmar on me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll see what the listeners think about this one. I think it does play, the strengths of it will play well to the audience that listens to this show. Hopefully, we'll find out, I guess. We were wrong on a couple of accounts, as we found out at the beginning of the show, but I think that the people out there will like it if they really, really like Giallo films and can point out.
You guys are gonna love this. Just smile a little bit.
Mark,
you
may
know
not
what?
like it.
I had a peach iced tea, a plate with cheese and crackers on it, my notebook and my pen, and a bag of Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, man.
I was having such a nice time. I was on my new couch. It's all nice.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and it was quiet. My daughter only came in when the old man was fucking his wife.
Okay.
Because she always comes in when something naughty's going on.
Right.
But it's probably the most
that
normal
was
scene in the film.
Yeah, that was the only time she walked in. So it was a good experience. I wanna do it again right now.
All right.
All right, so we all liked it.
We all liked it.
And
Before we leave, let's just real quick, as far as the Giallo score is concerned, the film got a 59.
that's awful.
Which I thought was pretty good for a film that I had no idea what the hell was going on.
I was gonna say relatively though, 59.
You need to fix that, sir.
Well, real quick, if we don't, if we have a moment, let me just.
Is it one of those that kind of misses the big ones because it wasn't made in the mid 70s by one of the big three or big five?
That's part of it, absolutely. But it does get some points because one of the things is it gets points if the director has done another Giallo, which in this case it did. So the director's not Italian, it's not from the classic period. The motivation for the killer was psychological trauma, right? We could say that, as opposed to blackmail.
Mm-hmm.
The killer avoids capture, right?
Yeah.
But the avoid capture criteria is they were either accidental death or suicide or killed by a police or other character. And in this case, the killer just kind of gets away.
Killed everybody.
I can't give it any points.
He didn't even get away. He just killed everyone who was coming to look for him. He just outsmarted them. You don't have an outsmart button?
Really? So the location was not Italian. It was in, where was it? What was it was an urban location, but was it like in Paris or something?
I'll say maybe France.
Would you say that there was?
The whole movie took place inside that house in that building.
It did.
It was great.
Totally did.
So awesome.
Do you think that the killer had an accomplice, or was there more than one killer?
The multiple personality thing.
I don't think so. I don't know.
No.
I don't think there was, but
I say if it's on the line.
Again, I'm not God. So.
And I can't give it credit for having a composer of Morricone or Nicolai because there's.
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah, but that's really like those guys did the whole thing, you know.
Oh.
Oh, now he's just making rules up as he goes.
He doesn't want it to beat eyeball.
Yeah, so it looks like it's sitting at 59. Yeah. I don't want it to beat eyeball, you're right. Yeah, I think it's going to stay at 59.
Okay.
All right. Well, on Netflix it has 3 stars. Bunch of snobs.
Right.
I remember seeing it on Netflix with a lot lower than 3 stars. So I don't know, maybe it's changed.
Well, hopefully we could get it up to 4 stars by the end of the week.
I think it's doing pretty decent on Letterboxd. I don't know how many people use that or still use that, but it's kind of like a movie logging site, and I think they do a 5-star rating, and I think it was in the 4s in general. So
groovy.
Well, right on. So now we are going to let you guys know what the poll for the next movies we're going to do is. So, drum roll, please. And first off, I want to thank Eric for putting the poll up because I forgot to do it.
I knew you'd get around
Thanks,
to it.
Eric.
I just wanted to look important.
All right. So, the winner and the movie we're going to do next week is Case of the Scorpion's Tail.
All right. Back to basics.
Yeah, Sergio Martino, right? So
Woo!
We still have 2 Martino films to do. This one and the ultimate one.
The ultimate. We're holding off. We've been doing really good holding off on the big ones.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of us.
Well, I was thinking maybe episode 50 needs to be a big one.
I thought episode 50 would be a clip show.
I hope you've started on it already.
We need 10 episodes to get ready for it.
Also, number 2, the one movie we're going to do after that, is Death laid an egg,
Holy sh!
which means, again, Eric's pick got last. Which is, what is it? Something deaths in the cat's eye?
7 deaths in a cat's eye.
Yeah.
7 deaths in a cat's eye.
I think once people found out it was like in a castle, they don't want anything to do with it.
7 deaths in a cat's eye is fun. It's really ridiculous, but I remember it being a fun film. So
Yeah.
I've only seen it once, and it was a long time ago. So I'm looking forward to watching that one again. And it'll be fun for that one to be number 51 on Giallo score because the other 2 have already been scored. So.
Well, that's the only one out of the 3 that I haven't seen, so I'm looking forward to it. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about Death Laid an Egg.
I'm gonna lay an egg on it.
You're gonna love it, Eric. You're gonna love it the most.
I won't.
It'll be like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
You dig it the most. All right. Okay, guys. Well, that means
That was fun.
from here, I say ciao ciao, and they say
From the East Coast to the West Coast, and somewhere in between.
I'm in a nice sandwich here.
He's in Murderapolis,
Pretty close.
breaking up fights like River Phoenix and Stand By Me. We all know how that ended. All right.
No switchblades were pulled.
Well, I'm glad you're safe, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so until next time, everybody, ciao ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.